episode is about some of the horror stories you're going to hear when you're in South America. Um, and to persuade you, don't go traveling. So scary. So many people trying to rip you off. So many people trying to like steal stuff from you, hit you, knife you. Is that a word? Okay, number one, people ask me, is it dangerous to travel in South America? The answer is yes and no. I think that's the answer for every question that the world asks you about. But anyway, so why yes? If you're not careful, of course, there's gonna be like chances where it's gonna be dangerous. But this doesn't even apply only to South America. It's gonna apply to even Europe, like Korea, Japan, China, everywhere around the world. So, crimes happen everywhere. It's not like there is one place where it's utopia and it's so safe. So, of course, South America is gonna be dangerous, but let me just assure you, it's not that dangerous. Like, I mean, I didn't experience anything, so it was like totally fine. But, yeah, so is it dangerous to travel? Can you travel there as a soul, as a lonely woman traveler? Maybe the lonely part's dangerous. The truth is, nothing like that happened to me. The only horror story that I have to tell while I was traveling in South America was people were just calling me Chino every day, in and out. When I'm just walking on the streets with a bag, people will be like, oh, look, 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 Chino, Chino, Chino. And I'm like, oh, Chino again? So Chino in Spanish just means Chinese. Or to them, it means Asian. So like, if you just look Asian looking, you're automatically a Chino because you're automatically a Chinese. Just trying to like let them know that Chino and Coreano and Japonese are different people. So like, Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. And I know this works for like everywhere around the world as well, because I know when I'm in the US, I hear that I'm Chinese a lot too. I have no problem about that, but the fact is my parents aren't Chinese, so I'm not Chinese. But yeah, it's like basically, I don't know, how can I compare this with? You, 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 you. I don't know, actually. How can you compare that? It's like calling, maybe it's not the same thing. It's like calling a Indian Chinese. No, that doesn't work, right? Because people do actually look different, an Indian and a Chinese person. But you know what? Okay, okay. Actually, yeah, Chinese, Koreans, Japanese, they tend to do look similar. So even Koreans, Chinese people, or Japanese people sometimes have a hard time like sort of like figuring who's who. So yeah, I'll give it to them there. People are always like saying Chino, Chino, and like I know it's a very innocent thing, but please stop pointing out. Like I know I already stand out. You don't need to point me out on the road going, oh, Chino, Chino. Especially little kids, when they pass you, they're just like, oh, Chino, Chino, and I'm like, do you need to do that eye thing? Just makes me really on the spot, like, oh, so sad. But anyway, okay, so that's the biggest crime, if you can say it's a crime, that I've experienced while I was traveling for, practically more than a year in South America. But so actually every country we've gone to, and every traveler we met at a hostel would have some kind of horror story that they actually experienced, and we were like, what? Like, what? How? So here are some of the stories I'd like to share with you. Some of the crazy stories, seriously, oh my god. One of the craziest, biggest stories, so I heard, was we were in Guayaquil in Ecuador, and Guayaquil is notorious in Ecuador for being like the most dangerous place. Even like local people who I've talked to in Quito or Baños or like Cuenca, everyone was like, oh, don't go to Guayaquil. So many crimes and happening there. And like, oh, by the way, in Ecuador, apparently Cuenca is the safest place. A lot of the local people I've met so far, like everyone always sort of like recommended Cuenca as a very like highly sophisticated concentrated area with not that much crime. So you should check it out. But yeah, so Guayaquil is a huge, huge city. Nothing really much to see there. It's just sort of like a metropolis, so huge buildings everywhere. But it's so dangerous because we know this Japanese guy who was running an NGO in Guayaquil, and even he experienced, while he was living in Guayaquil for 6 years, he experienced so many like bus, bus, what do you call those? Bus robberies? Like people would come with guns onto the local bus, take everyone's like bags and money with them, and then just get off. And apparently that happens very frequently in Guayaquil. And one of the horror stories so we heard was as soon as we left Guayaquil after like volunteering, there was a huge situation where a Japanese couple who came to Guayaquil for their honeymoon. It's actually sad. So both of them got kidnapped by a taxi, and the taxi sort of like stopped somewhere, and like out of a van from nowhere, like six males came out, and then they sort of like had them as hostages, and they would just sort of like drive them around to every ATM they see, and make them take out money from the ATM. And you know how you have like bank limits? So apparently what they do is they don't release you after you take out as much money as you can, because they know bank has limits. They would wait one more day, like give them a bit of bread to eat or something so they don't starve to death. And then the next day they would drag them along to all these other ATMs and then make them withdraw money out again until the bank hits another limit. So apparently this is one of like the most notorious procedures that a lot of these criminals do in Guayaquil. So they would just like take you to an ATM and then keep you again, take you to another ATM the next day, keep you again until all the money has been flushed out of your bank account. So apparently what happened to this couple was the husband sort of like fought against them, and he got shot and he died. And the wife was released later on, and she went back to Japan, and she's trying to sort of like go over this trauma. She was a friend I met in Chile, Santiago. And Chile, it's like supposed to be the safest country in South America. Like a lot of companies are headquartered in Chile because apparently Chile is like less corrupt and very safe. Anyway, so this is one of the things she experienced in Atacama, which is in Atacama, which is like the desert area. So Atacama is up here, and then you go down here, it's like Santiago. And then Atacama, she was in a bus, and someone kept on knocking the window outside her bus. So she like looked to see who it was, and the guy just tried to keep on talking to her, and like she's like, what? And then she felt like something was wrong. So she looked down, and then she saw that her bag was sort of like halfway dragged into the alley part of the bus. And she's like, what? And then she realized while someone is knocking on the door and trying to get her attention, someone else would quickly jump onto the bus, try to take the bag, and then run away. But she like looked just in time and apparently she sort of like tied the bag around the front part many times. So the guy who tried to steal it, they didn't have enough time to like unwrap the whole thing and take it. So that's actually one of good tips you can try when you're in a bus and you have like a big bag and you don't want it stolen. Like another story was in like Ecuador, and like I met these 3 Korean tourists, and we met them in Quito, and they had a crazy story. So like at 4 a.m. they went to Otavalo, I think. Otavalo is like a huge like open market area where it's very famous for leather, very famous for meat, and then so that's like in the morning, like you have to go at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. So apparently they went at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. and 3 people, so 1 woman and 2 males, and apparently at 4 a.m. out of nowhere, out of the alley. So one of the guys had like a very expensive DSLR, and because they wanted to buy some really good leather from this market, they had about $300 or $400 USD on them. And so this guy out of nowhere came up to the woman, held a knife to her neck, and said, "Give me everything that you've got." And so the guys had no choice but to give them, give him the DSLR and all the money. And then apparently the robber ran away. So they got everything stolen from them, And they came back that day back to the hostel, and they were giving, they told me the story, and I was just like, what? Like 4 a.m., 4 a.m. at a open market, How can someone just like have a knife to your neck and steal everything from you? It sounds so crazy. Oh, and in Colombia, even the Colombian media broadcasted about this. In Colombia, like the most popular way for people to steal stuff is like, some old lady comes up to you and then they put something on your bag, but you didn't know that they put it on your bag. So let's say they put some mayonnaise, or they put some kind of like spicy sauce on your bag, and they're like, "Oh look, you have mayonnaise on your bag, let me wipe it for you." And so like while they're helping you wipe, maybe another woman who sort of like comes to your side, comes up to you, and then like steals something from either the side of your bag or from your pocket or something like that. But that's like a very, very common way of stealing, like petty crime in Colombia. Also, like in some of the marketplaces, a very common thing that people do is like they either spit at you or they sort of like throw some kind of liquid at you. So then you're just like, what? And while you're doing like, what? Someone else from the group comes along and then snatches your camera away from you or your bag. So like if someone spits at you or someone throws some kind of liquid at you, just run. Don't be like, "Oh my god, what is this?" Because while you're wiping yourself, something's gone. So apparently that's one thing that happens a lot in marketplaces, especially like open marketplaces, that, they know that it always works all the time. So either they spit at you, they throw liquid at you, or they throw like dirt at you. And when they do, just like grab onto everything and then look at, "Oh my god, what is this?" Or just like quickly walk away from that kind of location, because probably these people aren't walking alone. They sort of have a group. So the reason why I'm telling you all these horror stories is so that you can be suspicious of every single person you meet while you're traveling. No. So why am I telling you this is because maybe while you're traveling, some woman comes up to you and says, "There's cream on your bag." Maybe you've heard this before. So you can be like, "Oh, no, I'll clean up myself, thank you," Or like when someone's knocking on the window next to you in a bus and he's someone you don't even know and he's trying to tell you something, just like quickly take a glance down at your bag just in case it's not being dragged out of the bus. Or like when you have a knife to your neck, please don't fight against them. Just like give them everything. That's the most dangerous thing you can do. So like don't fight against them trying to grab your money and camera. Or I mean, if you're like a black belt, like karate, black belt, then go for it. Please give me a good example of how I can defend myself in that situation, because I haven't thought of one yet. And sometimes I really feel like if I'm in that situation, I would actually want to grab my camera and everything and just like run, because I feel like, oh, I can be so confident about running faster than that guy who's chasing me. But probably, I'm pretty sure when I am in that situation, I might not be like that. I might be more like, "Oh, please don't hurt me, I'll give you everything." Maybe I just like said too many horror stories and that's sort of like putting you off from traveling, but I'm just saying like those things can happen. And you know what? Some people say when it actually happens, it sort of like frees them from the materialistic mindset they had. That's like way positive thinking, but if you do experience it, maybe it is an experience. As long as you're not hurt, you realize that your health and your life is so much more important than maybe this $500 camera, although it is worth a lot. You know, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know, I broke my computer while I was traveling. I nearly cried. And then I broke my camera, and then I, like, seriously cried. So, yeah, you know, we are sort of, like, connected to this materialistic value in the world. But, you know, having that experience, if you think of it positively, is it can free you from the materialistic sort of, you know, connection, or like mere obsession you have for materialistic stuff. But hopefully it doesn't happen to you, and don't let that put you off. So please go traveling, and be safe. So I'll post up some few tips about how you can be safe while you're traveling in my next video. So I'll see you guys then. Bye!